You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, I'm looking forward to another Friday review. I love being able to share a lot of the products that I use myself personally, some that I just find out about and that kind of interests me, and a lot of what I use in my own particular practice. So we use hundreds of different nutritional supplements. We use all sorts of different like state-of-the-art based software and technology. We have infrared sauna. We have all these great things. And so my goal is every week just to bring you about like 2, 3, or 4 different items that we're using. And of course, I'm happy to recommend any items that you would like me to as well. And one other thing I would say is try to go back to previous Friday reviews, because on those Friday reviews, there's techniques, there's supplements, there's all sorts of items basically that you can learn from that you can start to integrate into your own life for what makes sense for you, right? You're not going to use every single product that I do recommend, or maybe you will, because these are all great products, but try to use the ones that you think make the most sense for you and kind of where you're at in your life right now. So that brings me to today's first item that I want to talk about. So it's a nutritional supplement. It's one that I found out about while I was traveling a few months back. I started to get I just felt like a little bit of chest congestion coming on. I had been traveling on planes quite a bit, and I didn't have my usual supply of items as when I'm home. And when I'm home, of course, I use the adult immunity protocol that we have online, and I like to use fire cider. So one thing is the place where I was at did not have any of these items, but I found a nice old school natural health store. You probably know the ones that I'm talking about. Every kind of town or community usually has one. You walk in, you can see the owners. They're sometimes in their like 50s, 60s, 70s. They've been doing this for like 30, 40 years before any of it was popular. They were doing gluten-free and all those items before it became mainstream. And I love to go to these places, and I love to support them. They're absolutely not in it for the money. They love what they do. They're trying to promote good natural health. They're not like a GNC or one of those places. And I'm not saying those are bad, but I'm also not saying those places are very good. What I'm saying is when you go to a true natural health store, kind of one of these mom and pop type shops, they have a lot of great products, and they're just passionate about health. So I went into one of these stores. I kind of knew what I was looking for ahead of time. I was looking for a specific extract, some that mimicked fire cider that you've heard me talk about before. If you didn't listen to one of the previous podcasts on my greens juice recipes, I make one with fire cider. A lot of times if I'm feeling some post-nasal drip coming on, remember I had my adenoids removed. Actually, I had 2 operations on them. I had my tonsils removed. I had some bones broken in my nose. I have a deviated septum. So my sinuses is not the happiest place. And so when it gets to be winter time, I have to do a lot of work just to make sure that I do stay healthy. Of course, by a lot of work, I mean, 2 minutes a day, right? I use a neti pot, and I just make sure that I'm basically keeping my sinuses clean and clear. And the reward is that I don't get a sinus infection every 2 weeks like I used to from December to March every single year, especially in college and right out of college. So today's first product is called Cyclone Cider. So the nice thing about this is that you can't really travel with a big glass bottle of fire cider. Fire cider is fantastic, but what this is basically fire cider, a different company with a concentrated dosage. So you're just using 1 dropper. I believe it lasts about 30 days or so. I do 1 to 2 droppers. I usually go on the higher end. And what it is apple cider vinegar, garlic, cayenne, so it's cayenne pepper, horseradish root, ginger root, onion, parsley, and vitamin C. So now I know a lot of you heard my previous show on nightshades as well, and I don't do a lot of nightshades in my diet. However, what I do is make certain trade-offs when I feel like a little post-nasal drip or I feel a little chest congestion coming on. And so I will use proven things that like cayenne pepper that are a nightshade, but are going to help me out tremendously as an anti-inflammatory and also an antibacterial. So all I do is open my mouth. I don't mix this with water because I travel with this little bottle. It's just a little tincture, and I let it hit the back of my throat. So not on my tongue, the back of my throat. What that does is helps to kill any bacteria. If I had tonsils, it would kill the bacteria on my tonsils, but it just goes down my throat. It helps right away open up my sinuses because of that nice ginger root and the nice horseradish. The vitamin C, the parsley, the onion, those are just great detoxifiers. Same with the garlic. That's a nice antimicrobial, antibacterial as well. This is literally part of like a natural antibiotic, a natural one that's going to help you when you're sick. So I'm just telling you right now, I don't have any stock in this company. It's a phenomenal product. It's by ginkgointernational.com is the website, and you know that I don't like promoting any supplements on Amazon. Please listen to my previous show on buying supplements on Amazon. Many of them are counterfeit. Many of them are actually white powder being used as baking soda. A lot of them are expired products where they scratch off the date and they stamp on a new one. So, and I give you the whole spiel. Believe me, I know the supplement industry inside and out. I know what goes on behind it. I work with the largest supplement manufacturers. They tell me they buy back millions of dollars of counterfeit product every single year. So not a good scene, but this one I can't find anywhere else. You can find it at a mom and pop type shop. It comes in a little yellow box. It's like an old school funny logo of a cyclone, like a tornado in the front of it. It's called Cyclone Cider, and you can probably also find it maybe at like a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or one of those places as well. So great product. I can tell you this, that I will be traveling with that going forward in the future in my little travel case. So figured I'd pass it on to you. All right, the next product I want to review, on the headline, it was called The Magic Book. Now, I love reading about psychology. I love reading about self-improvement, love reading about self-help. One of the first books that I read was a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. Acquire the Secrets of Success, Achieve Everything You've Always Wanted, and it's by David Schwartz, PhD. So this book was written, let's see when it was written, 1959. So quite a while ago. Now, I love reading older books. So it's funny, like as gifts, people know that I obviously enjoy reading, and they'll buy me these books from like the 1800s, early 1900s. When you're looking at medicine, there wasn't the same scrutiny. There wasn't the same thing calling it quackery. There wasn't any of that stuff. People were allowed, and that means MDs, that means dentists, that means a lot of other type of practitioners were allowed to do experiments, like obviously natural, right? And they were allowed to use different products and allowed to try different things and allowed to speak their mind in a way where they wouldn't be condemned for coming out with different ideas, right? That could potentially help people. So this book is all about mindset. It's not the first book written on mindset, but it is a great one. One of the reasons why I like this book is this. It's obviously resonated with a lot of people. Over 6 million copies of this book have been sold. Keep in mind, most New York Times bestsellers, to get on that list, it's about like 25,000, maybe a little bit more. This book sold 6 million copies. People obviously like it. They've been sharing it. And the nice thing, again, about this is it talks about health. It talks about finance. It talks about spirituality. It talks about relationships. All the things that I try to get across as well is that we are not one-sided. There are many different sides to us. So a book like this gets you literally thinking bigger. Too many people in life really play small. They honestly do. They don't believe that they have it in them. They think that success in any different other facet of life, whether it is health, relationships, money, again, whatever it might be, is reserved for other people, reserved for other classes, reserved for the elite, whatever it might be. I'll tell you, I was not born into the elite. I am not, whatever that class is. I'm simply someone who follows a specific trajectory of trying to help more and more people provide greater service. And I never think about the money at all. Never think about any of those things. All I think about is how can I give great value? How can I give better value than anyone could get out there right now? How can I create a podcast that's free that usually you'd have to pay, money for, information for like an online video coaching series, one of those things. It's all I try to do. And I find that if you're doing that and you're also doing it in terms of relationships, in terms of health, that you're not dwelling on the negative, because there's so much negative, right? I mean, people try to copy what I do. They try to promote it as their own. There's doctors in Boston who literally have people come into my clinic. They try to see what I give people for protocols and use that in their own. I've consulted with companies. I mean, there's so many different stories I could share with you of people trying to always take. And I don't dwell on any of that, and I'll tell you why. I believe that if you focus on those negative things, you're going to get more of those negative things. If I focus on all the great people that I partner with, all of the great team members that I have on my team, and we have about 20 people on my team right now, and the amount of service that they're providing others. And the great goals that those people achieve and the 200,000 client sessions that we've been able to do, then that's what gets me just kind of moving forward, working long days, whatever it might be. And I just always focus on that part of it. And it's only by reading books, I'm telling you, it's only by reading books, going to seminars, any of those things that I've been able to just achieve whatever level of success that I've had. And again, everyone's level of success is different. It's all about satisfaction. It's all about being happy with where you're at in life and then saying, but I'm leaving myself open to more. I'm leaving myself open to bigger and better things, whatever those things might be. So I just want to share one little passage from this book, but this book is really about creating habits, taking action, thinking bigger, destroying fear, building confidence, and helping you create better goals. And so these are the type of books that I go back to. I would say like once a year I'll go back and I'll just kind of pick out some of my favorites. And this is a really excellent one. And I'll bring you more in the future, but you can't go wrong reading a book like this. It's just a little over 200 pages. You read 10 pages a day, which is always my philosophy for most people starting out. You'll read this book in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks maximum, and you're going to learn so much from it. So just one page is, since I talk about health, and that is really such obviously a big part of what I'm doing, is 4 things you can do to look health excuse-titus, which is basically like coming up with a lot of excuses for yourself of why you can't get well. So the first point is refuse to talk about your health. So the more you talk about an ailment, even the common cold, the worse it seems to get. Talking about bad health is like putting fertilizer on weeds. Besides, talking about your health is a bad habit. It bores people. It makes one appear self-centered and old-madish. Success-minded people defeat the natural tendencies to talk about their bad health. One may, and let me emphasize the word may, get a little sympathy, but one does not get respect and loyalty by being a chronic complainer. So with this point, he's basically saying, talk to your doctor, talk to whoever's going to help you about your health, but don't always be complaining about it, because what happens is you start to focus on it. When you remember, whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of. You're going to attract it only because you're going to take the specific actions that cause you either a positive or negative effect. The second one is refuse to worry about your health. So I always beg warriors to exercise some self-control. For instance, when I saw this man, a fellow who was convinced he had a diseased gallbladder, although 8 separate x-rays examinations showed that the organ was perfectly normal, I begged him to quit his gallbladder being x-rayed. I have begged hundreds of heart-conscious men to quit getting electrocardiograms made. So essentially what he's saying there as well is, again, don't focus on the negative. Stop worrying about these specific things. It doesn't mean don't take action to get well. What it means is you have to release this negativity. Release the fear that you're not going to get well. Third one is be genuinely grateful that your health is as good as it is. I've talked about this before. If you move back to a previous Motivation and Mindset Monday, I've talked about how things can really be 10 times worse than they are right now. So one of the ways in which I got well is I obviously accumulated more knowledge to how to heal my body. But the even bigger part, I honestly believe, is that I had to just stop thinking about how sick I was and focus on how well I could be. And so this fourth point, remind yourself often, it's better to wear out than rust out. Life is yours to enjoy. Don't waste it. Don't pass it up. Living by thinking yourself in a hospital bed. So what that means is this, and you've heard me talk about this on many previous Motivation and Mindset Mondays, is that I had 2 choices. I could live as a sick individual for my entire life, or I could say to myself, I don't know if I'll ever get better. I don't know that. I honestly don't know. But what I can say is this, I'm never going to ever stop trying to get well. And even if I don't get well, I'm going to enjoy my life. When I said that to myself, and again, it took weeks for that to set in, months for it to set in, action after action, relapse after relapse, but I started to live that. And when I lived that, when I then got a cold or a sinus infection or whatever it might be, started to get run down, I said, you know what, this is temporary. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to be feeling good again. I'm going to take care of myself, all those extra things that I need to do. So again, this isn't the only book I read, but I'm telling you, it's a great book, The Magic of Thinking Big, and we'll link it up in the show notes. So again, just go to StephenCabral.com and go to the podcast page. So StephenCabral.com/podcast. And whenever you go to that page, you'll obviously see all the different previous ones. And I believe today is episode 371. So the last item I would like to talk about today, because in the next couple weeks, I'm going to be bringing to you the best quality home and work air purifiers. So to get mold out of the atmosphere, to get toxic gases out of the atmosphere, any of these specific things that can be contaminating your own health. But today what I want to talk about is a few different natural air purifiers that purify the home when cooking, with like flowers, with trash, with any of those things. So there's a couple simple things that you can use. One of the things that we'll use when we're chopping onions at home is literally putting out a cup of vinegar. It could be apple cider vinegar or just white vinegar as well. So white vinegar will help to alleviate some of the watery eyes, the tearing up that happens when you're actually chopping onions. So I thought that was a kind of nice thing. Some people running underwater, all that. I don't want to deal with all of that. We'll just put that right out there and we can do that really, really nicely. Another thing that works well, just a natural air purifier, is putting out vodka. So like literally just pouring about 4 ounces or so of vodka into a small bowl, and you can leave that overnight, and that will help to purify the air as well. In a lot of air fresheners, you'll see ethyl alcohol is actually one of the main ingredients, and so it just using vodka, whatever type of vodka you prefer, you could leave out. Another great one is coffee grounds. So coffee grounds actually works in the refrigerator, just like baking soda will work in your refrigerator. You keep it in a bowl. Of course, you can't reuse that then, and you can't use the baking soda. You can't reuse that as well either, because it picks up a lot of these toxins and actually absorbs it into the coffee grounds. So coffee grounds, again, a lot like the consistency of baking powder or baking soda, and what it does is it actually helps, again, pull in a lot of those fumes from the air, and is really, really nice purifier as well. Plus, most people like the smell of coffee, and so it makes a nice little air purifier as well. Again, if your house isn't smelling that nice, you just put out a bowl of this and it helps to soak that up as well. And so just one more thing that I would like to add. If you do use an air purifier in your house, and again, I'll be talking a lot more about this as well, do not use a lot of the chemical-based ones like Lysol and those. They're harmful to you, they're harmful to the air, they're harmful to your pets, and they're harmful to your children. If you're going to get one, just use one that's a natural essential oil. So one that we like to use at the Wellness Center all the time is a tea tree oil or a lavender spray. Lavender sprays, I've mentioned that in a previous Friday review, is fantastic. Not only does, again, kill some of those air-based toxins and smells as well, but it is calming. And that's one of the really nice things about lavender is the essential oils all have certain qualities to them. And lavender oil especially is a nice calming, soothing, anti-anxiety based one. So all of these are great natural air fresheners. Again, you can leave the vinegar out, the vodka out, the coffee grounds out. Those will help to absorb any of those smells that you don't like, whether it's trash or whatever might be going on in the house. Really, really nice. And then the other thing is too, you can use those essential oil sprays, whether it's a citrus oil or a lavender oil. All of those work great for the bathroom and just for getting rid of just smells in general that you don't want. So hopefully today's show brought you a few little insights. We've got the Cyclone Cider. We've got the Magic of Thinking Big. Great book. And we have the natural air cleaners. And again, in the future, I'll bring you air purifiers that you can keep in your home too to help kill mold spores, dandruff, dust, any type of airborne pathogens. Thank you once again for tuning into another Friday review, and be sure to tune back in this weekend when we answer all of our community's questions on the Cabral House Calls. Take care, everyone. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well, finally, is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing, and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life EQUI.life.labs. That's EQUI.life/labs.